Hey, Marty. Marty, is it still raining on the island out there? Hi, Diane. Sorry. Hi, say, Sid. Been a while. Nice to see you here, pal. Shalom. Hi, Jay. Nice to see you. Back where you belong. Hey, Queen. It's been a while. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hi there. It's uh, it's lovely to have you. Hola, Sarita. Nice to see everybody here this evening. Can I just do a quick sound check? Oh, Catherine. Hello, Catherine. Good evening. Uh, quick hello to Catherine, who happens to be known broadly in the broader world as Mum. Rosana, buenas noches. Yeah, well, Mum, finally good to see you here. My mum, ladies and gentlemen, is, well, not originally from here, but grew up on the island. So we have deep, deep familial connections here. I don't know if this is going to work because it's the evening, but let's just have a quick little check this out, hey? I don't know. See, so I'm looking out. It's kind of cool. Uh, is that right, Marty? Yeah, it's not raining here, but I brought the just a cool little statue. There's a whole bunch of these all around Victoria now. This is a sort of a discovery thing that they've come up with, which is kind of cool. But I'd like to say a quick hello, Mary Lou. You're here, and my mom's in Calgary too, saying hi. It's actually warmed up a little bit. I've got 3 layers on. Hey, Pam. Evening, Pam. And I've got my umbrella. So it's Pam. I guess it's cold at home. We've had a gorgeous day here, everyone. And I had a beautiful day with my brother and with his really just fabulous wife, just because she's just a fabulous person and everything. And then been to the gym 3 times today. And now I've got a bit of a cough. So, um, just a real quick hello. If you haven't met me before, my name's Patrick Toomey. I am not from here. I'm from Banff, where Pam is. I'm from the Canadian Rockies, but I'm out here in Victoria. Now, I've given a few kind of, yeah, so I heard Pam. I've given a few deeper sort of historical tours here. Um, and I just thought that I would do sort of. I know, I'm not a necessarily a big sort of Christmas person, but the lights and everything out here are just gorgeous. Diane, we'll be in shorts in that weather. But I'm down by the harbor. But what I'd like to do for those who are either not that familiar or very familiar with Victoria, there's the inner harbor, and and it is just gorgeous, of course. And I thought if we're gonna do some fun lights, look, look at this. Look at that. There we go. Bit of Rolling Stones just to start the evening off. Kristen, you know what? I know it's probably like 80 degrees in Florida, but I'm in beautiful British Columbia. So I'm out here in Victoria on the very, very south end of the island. I know many of you have joined me for all sorts of historical tours here, but I am actually up by Bastion Square as well. What I thought I would do, hi Katrina, hey Joyce. I thought I'd do a little loop up there, and then, of course, I have to take you around, and I thought I would save the Parliament building towards the end of our walk today. I want to stick to time because I know So is over in Vancouver doing a tour of lights as well. So I want to obviously respect that because I think it's going to be gorgeous over there. But there is Huntington House in the distance. Mom, you'll remember this out there, but it's a gorgeous building. It's just getting a little tired, though. It really needs a new roof on it. Um, but that's down around the bend, and that's if you're walking around the seawall and you're heading out around to see the floating houses. And then as I look around here where the Delta Hotel is in the distance, that's out into Esquimalt. Esquimalt runs itself as a separate city. Well, in fact, there's something like 16 different municipalities here for Greater Victoria, and it seems a little superfluous. There's 160 different councillors representing a greater area of about 450,000 people. All that said, quality of life is very, very high here. Very progressive environment. The reflections are just gorgeous, aren't they? So, it's I always feel in terms of my macro political view of things, one has to step back and say, how's it actually working for everyone involved? Look at the little boat that's just coming across now with the lights on. So here we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, if you haven't met me before, my name's Patrick Toomey, and my son's name is Finn. He's really heavily celebrated in this community. Um, or maybe it's something to do with the fishing maritime conditions. Really hard to know whether it's true or not. Krista, it is a absolutely spectacular inner harbor. The reason why Vancouver became the big city, really two main points. This beautiful natural harbor is excellent but small. That's one factor. And the second factor is that there's a lot of exposed rock here. And so agriculturally wasn't as productive as mainland British Columbia. But this is, of course, the land. And may I please do a land acknowledgement of the Songhees and Esquimalt peoples, part of the Greater Coast Salish linguistic group. Those languages are still spoken here all over. They've got markers all through the Muddy Flats area, which is where people have lived here for tens of thousands of years. So if we could look past these buildings, past the Grand Hotel there, we go down through James Bay and really about a 15-minute gentle walk, and you'd be over on Dallas Road and you'd be looking to Juan de Fuca Straits and looking across to Olympic Peninsula in Washington. Laura, good evening to you. Lovely to have you here for a walk with me. So here's the harbor. Let's go do a loop around and say, I'd like to just keep it to time because I put this tour up after Sure Queen, but I just want to keep the time because so is doing a tour in Vancouver, and she had her tour up before I put this up, so I don't want to sort of disrupt someone else's process. So, Queen, I live in Banff. I live in Banff in the Canadian Rockies. I am a true Canadian Rocky person. I go back generations, and there's a car going right through. There you go. So this is Bastion Square. So I live up at 1,500 meters above sea level, or about 5,000 feet, and Pam is on board as well, and it is like minus a million. Phil, evening, pal. So out here, it's about 2 degrees Celsius. When I say that, you can see a bit of breath. It's cool to cold, and I even have the umbrella with me. Just I look like a West Coast sort of person. I don't even own an umbrella at home because it only snows. Good to see you, Phil. Oye, Phil, te hablo solamente en español. So Bastion Square, this is where they had a Christmas market out here today. And this is where Fort Victoria began in 1843. I do like this little statement down here. Look at this. Even at night, you can see peace. I know, hey, Pam, Tuesday morning, I put up one of the coldest day tours. And you've been testing it too, but last year I found that the gimbal lasts about 28 minutes at below minus 30 before it gives up. But this city here is quite a dignified city, and I have to admit what's a lot of fun about Victoria is a good, Mom, you'd know, about 15 years ago they built this huge shopping complex to the north a little bit, and it really hurt the city center, but gradually all sorts of new kind of vibrant, interesting and environmentally sensitive businesses have moved in. So it's been really a very successful overall place in terms of development here. And of course, there's a lot of Canadians who are entering that gentle period towards retirement, and Victoria is the number one choice for retiring here. Queen, that's a really big question, but where Pam and I live is the most Christmas, every image you see of Christmas around the world. And I was just in La Paz, Bolivia, and in Lima, Peru, and even in Iquitos in the Amazon, and you have pictures of snow and Santa Claus. Well, where we live, we have 8 months of snow in our community. So, Bastion Square down here, 1843, they set up a fort. By 1846, Governor Douglas is sent up here to head up both the colony and the Hudson's Bay Company, which is a bit of a competitive concept, as you can imagine. This was then named Vancouver's Island. There's loads of Spanish names around. Texada, San Juan, Quadra, and so forth. And that's because the Spanish had set Quadra up all the way from Lima to find the Russians. The Russians were way up at 5440, which is the very bottom tip of Alaska. And if you're into American history, James Polk talked about 5440 or fight. You might remember the whole idea of manifest destiny and that sort of concept. But this was the founding of Fort Victoria here. There was about 350 people in the fort until in 1858 gold was found up the Fraser River, of course, mapped out by Simon Fraser. And that suddenly caused, well, a ship arrived on a Sunday as people were coming out of church. And suddenly the population doubled and it all changed. There is the Irish Times bar. Um, well, it's funny. I mean, my son is celebrating Hanukkah starting tomorrow, but here in Baston Square, but see this particular pub, Paul, I can't remember where you were on earlier today. So this was rated in 2017 the best Irish pub outside of Ireland, as they say. And then they are Ted Pub, and it's we did talk about this earlier, Paula, because I know you don't like pubs and all that sort of thing. You know, you wouldn't be roped into that, you know, silly environment of music and crack, as one says. You wouldn't either, would you, Susie? So I did wander up here on a more historical tour today, but really the reason I decided to start here is I want to wander down, and I always find on these tours that people tend to sign on a little bit later. So I thought I would head down nice and gently towards the Parliament buildings, which are looking just spectacular. Tiahuas, what a lovely name. Buenas noches, bienvenidos. It's lovely to have you here. So I'm on Government Street. And of course, this is the capital of the province of British Columbia. By the way, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Ireland, the word crack is the Irish word for fun. So thanks, Diane. Now have a look out here, the Bard and Bank here. This is the original bank, 1886, the first bank here in this nascent colony of British Columbia. Do you know when my mom was a child, which is only a few years ago? Yes, I did, Queen. Hey, T&J, good evening. So when my mom was a child, it was an overnight ferry over to the mainland. Now you drive for about 40 minutes north along this peninsula to Shorts Bay, and then you take a ferry for an hour and a half. BC Ferries is the largest network of ferries on planet Earth. It's also the largest network of float planes in the world through here. And then you go over to Tsawwassen and you drive up into Vancouver or wherever else you're going. So that's the whole connection. Here on the island is huge. It's huge, certainly in a European sense. It's an extremely, well, diverse island in its own way. There's a large Indigenous population here still, which is really important. And of course, this is really, I think, in many ways, the center of the concept of reconciliation in this country. There's a lot of political will to achieve that. But I go on and on about some of this history, but sometimes it's just nice to have a view of the fun. There is an old-time candy shop. It's so old, they spelled time with a Y and shop with two P's and an E. That's how old it is. It's I remember the first time I took Finn to Whistler. Laura, you'll like this. Took Finn to Whistler, and he said, I'm gonna have to go find whatever the old candy shop is. He did. I can't remember what name it was, like Whistler Fudge or something. By the way, this is not an interesting building, but I'm going to give you one quick view just around the corner, and then we're going to carry on for the lights, because it's all about lights tonight. There, I did a long chat about this earlier today, but there's the map of Vancouver Island. We're right down at the base, and you'll see the water. We don't need to ask personal questions on here. That way, now there's the Juan de Fuca Strait, and down to the south is the Olympic Peninsula, and that leads down into Puget Sound. And as you move down into Puget Sound, that's where Seattle is. So we are in this huge, important economic nexus here, known as Cascadia. And so the coastal mountains are the Cascades. Victoria is both the most refined and the smallest of the cities in this area, really, because if you take Greater Vancouver and, of course, Seattle, this huge economic powerhouse and such a cool place. Hey, Michelle! Everyone, we want to offer a big hug and welcome to Michelle, because she is our Swiss friend, but she is in California, if I'm correct, Michelle. I believe that's true. Down there visiting friends and family. And it's It's lovely to have you here. See, everyone's taking pictures. Now, the lights, which is obviously the purpose of tonight's little stroll here, the lights just get better and better and better as we make our way down. And I knew people would be joining on a little later. So I decided to do things in reverse. And I can't help but bring you all the history and all of that. But sometimes we just need to step back and enjoy the sheer beauty of it. So it's not snowy on the ground here. Hey, Memphis, Stephen, nice to see you. In fact, most of this country, of course, is going to be. Um, in fact, I think it might. I don't know if Marlene's here tonight. Marlene, are you here? I'm wondering about on the East Coast whether it's snowy out there. Hey, Shell. Um, as I think the rest of Canada's all snow colored. Hey, trees. Whereas, of course, we get a little wet here. There's still a chance of snow tomorrow. A huge system has blown down right over. In fact, we're flying at 4 p.m. local tomorrow. Getting us in Calgary with the time change about 6:30. I'll be driving home in blowing snow tomorrow. But look, now I think hopefully you've enjoyed the start of our little walk tonight. But now it's just going to become more and more dramatic as we make our way into the inner harbor. Um, no snow in Boston. Actually, Adrian's pronounced Boston. No, that's Julie, c'est un vrai wow. So there is the thank you, Ruth. Ruth, I didn't even see you here. Good evening. There is the Empress Hotel, of course. The Empress was the ship that you would take from here. You take a train for 9 days across this continent. It's okay, Queen. Um, and then we would then you would sail all the way around to Hong Kong, and this is why the sun never set. Sorry, you're good. Thank you. Everybody is so friendly, Julie. But it's I'm biased. I love everyone in the whole world. Thanks, Helen. But this is so nice, and of course, so many people out here on the West Coast study film and that sort of thing. So they think I'm out doing something like this, and they think I'm actually working. I won't go in. Just chill. You're good. Now there is the Rattenbury, British Columbia legislature out there. Look at that building um, with the green and red. Now, it's always lighted up at night according to the time of year, um, but it is pretty spectacular. And um, on top there is Captain Vancouver. And again, the first colonial name of this island was Vancouver's Island, Captain Vancouver. So James Cook came up here. There used to be a statue of him up to the left there, and they chucked him in the water because he wasn't a very nice person. Captain Vancouver came up here, charted the inside, but of course the Spanish names are because of Quadra. And we almost had a war between the British and the Spanish at Nootka Sound. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And then, of course, the Russians are to the north, but way further north than here. But it is pretty amazing. So I have so many ways. Do you know, and the time I have, so normally I'd like to go down. There's the Canada sign over there. Let me just zoom in for you here because I'd like to actually walk the other way around, I think, tonight. But of course, there's the famous Canada sign down there, and that goes to 2017, Canada's 150th. Um, I think all us Albertans have to take as many pictures of the Canada sign as possible, as my province is desperately trying to wreck the Confederation. But don't worry, I will stand up and fight to preserve it. You know, Helen, it is so beautiful, and it's thanks, and it's gentle, right? There's this sort of civility to it that probably historically would not have actually attracted me. But it's the fact that anyone can be anyone here now, for the most part. I mean, there's always exceptions, of course, but you're actually kind of united around this sort of sense of just a relaxed, easy, friendly lifestyle. And as a consequence, um, there's a yeah, it is. It's a sort of warmth to it. I'm very proud of the city, and it is, Laura, and I think, well, Laura, I expect you and I share many of the same values that way. It is living in the tumultuous political environment of Alberta, for example, at the moment. Now, obviously, I live in a national park, and I take that very seriously. You know, it's easy. to want to step away. Now, today, there was a little I don't know what they are, anti-vax, like weirdo protest in front of Parliament here. Finn loved it. Hey, Chandra, good evening. Finn loved it, but it was like 12 people. Um, Thanks, Karen. And so we did have, you still have all of that. But for the most part, no, I didn't do one, no. But for the most part, of course, you have people are fairly united around the fact that, of course, demographically, Victoria is quite unique. There's a huge retirement population here. I mean, overwhelming in terms of any other demographic compared to the rest of the country, but fair enough. And it's so much fun. Like tomorrow, when I get to the gorgeous, friendly little airport here, most people working there are retirees who are both who are putting in, of course, earning a little extra money, but also sort of contributing. See, look at people biking. So there's the Empress. That is Scotch brick there. And Scotch brick was always used as ballast in the ships when they would sail across. And it was interesting because now I know, hello, I know that some people here are vegetarian, but Finn and I this afternoon went over to the Bateman Center, that building, which is probably the third. It does, Julie. I agree. That was probably the third of the customs houses here. That one's more like 1920s, and that's because there's two different ferries that come in here. You have the Clipper that comes in, and then which is the high-speed ferry over to Seattle, and then the Coho, which is the car ferry that goes over to Port Angeles. But in there is the steamship grill, and from 3 to 6 is happy hour, and so we gorged ourselves on oysters out there today, which was lovely. This is so yeah. Now I have a teenager who's busy going through puberty and clearly growing because he's starving. No, it was oysters, and so I wasn't really hungry. But he said to me, "Hey, thanks, Pamela." I'm still processing my breakfast, which I'm never going to have again. But the oysters were delicious, and then we went up. Oh, we were tough. It's been a tough day. We went up and had a nap. Um, and then, hey, and there is Sayori, ladies and gentlemen. Sayori, good evening. So there is, of course, the Rattenbury building. There is a 13-meter Douglas fir tree right up through the rotunda in there, a real tree, and it smells beautiful inside. So yesterday we actually went for breakfast in there. Um, Now, I just want to come back around. Don't worry, I will go up a little further. And there's all the lights, of course. Um, no te entiendo lo que me digas, Sayuri. Sayuri sent me a picture earlier because she is clearly out partying with the masses in Bahia. Although Sayuri, I have to say, Finn is warming very much to the idea of going down and really perfecting his Portuguese down there at some point with you. Doesn't that sound like a great idea, everyone? So it's I think it would be. It just sounds like such a fun idea. We just need to make sure we get a season where it's below 20 degrees. So if Sayuri says it's cold, we'll consider going. By the way, people ask me so much about this. Here's one of the tour buses that are here. I mean, obviously tourism is pretty important. Um, this one takes you out to the Bouchard Gardens. And the Bouchard Gardens are beautiful, of course. Although I do want to say, and I feel like I always feel like I need to repeat it, just around, this is the Royal British Columbia Museum over here on the left-hand side with the Carillon. If we went across the back of that building, you'd be over into Beacon Hill Park, which is the main city park here. Not as famous as Stanley Park in Vancouver, but still gorgeous. And that park is still fantastic. And it's a wonderful mix of, native growth, indigenous growth. This poor puppy just doesn't want to go any further. Um, and you even see turtles out there and peacocks, and it's lovely. And the tallest totem in the world, which is right out. And it's funny because we've tested it before, and I can't really do a tour out there. It seems to pick up the transmission from the States, and so it just messes up with the phones a little bit. But if I were to walk straight up the street here, right up Government to the very end, I'd be at Dallas Road, and I would be at mile 0 of the Trans-Canada Highway. Those of you who joined me the other way when I was in St. John's, Newfoundland about 6 weeks ago, I was at the other mile zero, or according to this one, I'm not sure what the miles, but kilometer A600 or something. Pretty spectacular. But all about evening light. So there is, of course, War Memorial. There is not lit up at all, but there is a statue of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria probably didn't know that they named this city. Well, it was, of course, a very, very distant colony once upon a time named after her. But again, when you're out here in British Columbia, the statues of Queen Victoria tend to be quite a young Queen Victoria. I don't know how amused or not amused she was. And then there's a lovely totem, but look at the tree up here. Isn't that pretty? I don't know how well it's coming through on the screen, but I need to come and share with you a little bit of reflective moments on the Inner Harbor because, Julie, it is so beautiful. It's just so captivating. Thanks, Queen. All the very best. Look at that lovely, lovely view. I say we only have a few more minutes here because I say I really don't want to run over time just because I know that So is doing a tour in Vancouver, and because I put this up after the fact, I don't want to sort of steal someone's thunder, um, but because I've had this time to share this with everyone, and I mean I come back to Victoria, as you know, a lot, and excuse me, those of you who have done lots of trips with me here know how interesting the city is, but sometimes these evening lights in the Inner Harbor are just something we have to share amongst ourselves because it is just so perfect. So, and see, my mom lived here for years, and then my dad lived here in his last most meaningful years of his life before, of course, that crime of dementia took over. Um, and it's 2 degrees, or maybe it's 1 degree Celsius out here right now, so just above freezing. And this is probably the warmest place in the country right now. So Laura, I hope all of you down in Toronto are freezing yourselves because we're going home to some serious cold. Oh, it's cooking out here. I don't think, Sayuri, you could probably deal with the heat out here. Hi, Elizabeth. Good evening from Texas. We're just talking about how much warmer it is here than other parts of the country. Isn't that boat? Is it mild? Hmm. Do you know, Lori, there's so many responses I can make to that. Mildly interesting? No, no. I, I love pictures. Now let's just go back here for a second. There we go. Look at that entrance. There is. Now behind it are the old bird cages. The bird cages were the original Parliament buildings here. This one was eventually opened, 1899. I say Rattenbury had to lie. I think Sid had to. That's the Parliament, Laurie. That's the British Columbia Legislature. So this is the capital of the province of British Columbia. This was first the Crown Colony of Vancouver's Island, and then when the gold rush was struck in 1858 over in the mainland on the Fraser River, they established the colony in New Caledonia. They fused them together by 1862 and then signed a deal with Canada to enter Confederation on the proviso that a train would be built across the country. And British Columbia entered Confederation in 1871, thus ending Manifest Destiny as a concept for 5440 or fight for the United States. Now, how did they end that mix? Well, they ended it with this hotel right over here. Not 100% true. It was more with the Banff Springs Hotel where I live, but they built this great chain of hotels across the country, giving birth to modern tourism as we know it today. People would take trains across the country. They would leave 9 days, can you imagine, from Montreal to get out to the West Coast. They would take a steamship over here, and then they would hop on the Canadian Pacific Empress all the way over to Hong Kong. And so that was that great connection. And that's the birth of Canada as we know it. But this was a pretty distant part of the world. You know, Montreal, and it's not, I take nothing away from the people. Well, I take a lot away from, the horrific colonial racism and so forth. But from the people who actually said goodbye to their families and moved to places around the world, it was incredible. But if you were to come and move over here, What a commitment. This is the other side of the world. And of course, to get here, you would have moved across. You would have, well, come around the south of India and across from Hong Kong to come here. Um, it's third class was $15 apparently on the Canadian Pacific ships once upon a time. Now listen. Oh, it's amazing to think about how it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen. First of all, tomorrow I'd like to just say a quick note that we're really thrilled that for the first time ever, and got a little bit of promotion on Hago. He had the holiday season, but he wasn't sure how to do locations, so it's up his bam. Finn's doing a tour here tomorrow morning and the start of Chanukah. And then we'll be back home tomorrow night, and he'll have some other tours up there. So please be very gentle with him about the location because he thought he had changed the location to Victoria, and it is what it is. But it's nice. So I do want to say to everyone, see, this is my toque from Bolivia. Thanks, Laura. So I'd like to first of all say peace and love to all of you. I would like to. Um, oh, sorry. Hold on. Jay, is it your 300? Is it, Jay? Goodness, you don't look nearly that old. Ed, hey, Ed, happy Christmas. Ed is my mom's friend. Oh, you're on your 350th? Goodness me, because I think I'm on my second or third. But Jake, congratulations, and we love having you as part of our community here as well. Because frankly, you were just a lovely human being with a great sense of humor. That is so nice to have you here. Well, thank you for coming out and enjoying these lights with me, ladies and gentlemen. I just, you know, it's we're on, a little bit. We had a nice visit with my brother and family, and I just thought I couldn't leave without sharing all of this with all of you. Obrigado, Sayuri. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your friendship and partnership, and for those who can, your support, and for those who can't, still love you. So, um, have a lovely night, everyone. Give a big thanks, Karen. Give a big hug to my kid tomorrow, those who can. And oh, and by the way, Argentina mañana para el mundial, porque ya tenemos que. Phil, my friend, I'll see you very soon. So, we'll see you the next few days in the Big B in Banff. And all right, Mom. Hey, we'll talk soon. Listen, if you have the energy, head on over to Vancouver. There, I probably won't make it because I gotta get back up, catch up with my kid. But anyway, thanks for coming and hanging out. And beautiful, thanks, Adrian. Beautiful Victoria here. Yeah, well, it's so funny. We have a car here, actually, Diana, because it's actually cheaper to rent a car than pay for a taxi both ways from the airport. Um, And so we're gonna go out and I'm gonna show Finn. Thanks, Chris. I'm gonna show Finn the oldest Chinese cemetery in all of Canada tomorrow. And it was Elizabeth, of course, Hago from here who showed it to me. And I am gonna call Elizabeth. I feel really bad. It's just been a real family time here. So aside from taking you all out for walks, I just really been hanging out, having good family time. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, hey, it's easy to love Victoria, right? So everyone go out and behave yourselves. And I'm sorry for going a bit long, but I'll just give you one more little peek out here at the harbor. You're very welcome. Lots of love. Jay, congratulations. Buenas noches a todos. Ayayanchu. Tupananchiskama.